Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. This one isn't gonna be too long. Um, First, Mr. Z has come down with the 28 days later. No, I'm joking with y'all. I do got the flu, so I'm not gonna be doing too much talking. I'm Z, not talking, right? So there's that. And I think BGS did a great job. So I'm not gonna, you know, try to remix his work because I think he did a great job. But I will say this, what the difference between progressives and traditionalists when it comes to black women, it's non-existent. Both of them put all the onus on black men. I want to say this to Neferkar, brother. Black men do not fear white men. It's not fear of white men that's the issue for the masses of black men. It's shame towards black women, right? It's shame. Black men, black women fundamentally believe that black men are at fault for slavery and Jim Crow. Black men feel shame that they didn't win a race war against white men, right? That is what you're dealing with. That is what this is about. That it's not about fear of white men. I would argue most black men do not fear no white men. Do they understand the political power that white men wield? Yes. Do they understand the economic and social power? Absolutely. But fear of white men, it's not fear of white men. And we're talking about mainly in the Western and American context, right? In the Western and in American context, it's not fear of white men. It's being socialized that what black women do is understandable and excusable because you didn't win the race war and you didn't make her what upper middle class and rich and elite white woman is. That's what the issue is. And I'm saying, and my title is what it is, progressive versus traditionalist, because this is what animates the entire conversation between black men and black women when it comes to relationships, child rearing, upbringing, education. At the foundation of the conversation is, but you let me not be a white woman. I'm not an upper middle class white woman, and it's because of you. That is at the foundation of the conversation between black men and black women. Black women walking around with the aura, but though, black men, you ain't the white man, and you definitely ain't make me the white woman. So how great are you? Right? Okay, that's cool. You got a couple of dollars. Some of you are rich, but the system, though, is still white. Right? Remember what Miss Theodora said. What was her name? Jessica? Miss Theodora told you what it is. I still have that video on my phone for anyone that needs it. She told you what it is. That's what it is. So, Neferkar, just something to consider. It's just something to consider. It's not fear of white men. It's shame. It's shame that many brothers feel when it comes to their relationship towards black women because I'm sorry, I did not make you a white woman. Right? My apologies, I did not make you a white woman. My apologies that we did not win the race war. My apologies that you're not the one walking through the store with the teacup dog in the middle of the afternoon, shopping at Nordstrom's to buy some Louis or whatever. Right? That's what this is about. So that's just something to consider, number one. Number two, so I listened to the original video, which I have to put in my phone from Neferkar, and I listened to BGS response to Obsidian when it comes to Black Bread Tube. Look, both the left and the right, the progressives and the traditionalists, will not say anything to black women. They infantilize black women. When it comes time to hold black women's feet to the fire, right? When it comes time to accountability, both progressives and traditionalists say, well, I kind of understand where she's coming from, black man, because you're not the white man, right? So on Dr. Umar Johnson's side and the conservatives and the traditionalists, they're going to say, well, there's less black men than black women, and we're more incarcerated, and it's always some, but black men, you are defective though. It's always some black men, but you are defective. You're not a white man. You didn't conquer, rape, and pillage and destroy the world to put black women in position like white women are, right? And when you speak to the progressives, so that's the more traditionalists, when you speak to the progressives, what you get is FD signifier. Look, man, I'm not even going to say that what y'all are saying is 100% wrong. I'm going to tone police you because I don't think you should be saying it the way you're saying it. I don't really think you should be saying it at all, but definitely not the way you're saying it. But you have to understand, like, I can't speak to the women. I can't, I'm a man, so I can't really say anything to the women. Okay, what about the women saying something to the women? Well, you have to understand. I mean, black women have more college degrees than black men, and the black, they take care of the children, and and like when FD tried to, when he was speaking about his situation, right? And his wife wanted to be a mother, and she wanted to mother, right? So it is acting traditionally, but we just gonna remix it. And to be frank with you, where we get with both the way the traditionalists are framing the conversation between black men and black women, and where we get with the progressives, is what Mr. Z has been saying: patriarchy by feminist specifications. You let the progressives talk long enough, because Ms. Christine Imber kind of let it slip a little bit with her interview with her conversation with Scott Galloway on CNN. She let it slip a little bit, right? If you let the progressives talk, we're going to end up with patriarchy under feminist specifications. In other words, the provider protector part of patriarchy, not the leadership last word part, right? Then if you let the traditionalists talk, you still end up being paymaster to some a-hole woman. And you're a real man, so you'll just ignore it, right? Huh. So, I'm listening to these people, and they don't really, there's not that much difference. That's why I said it, when FD produced the swirlnomics video, and et cetera, and his am I a simp video, I said it. There's not as much difference between FD and Dr. Umar as y'all would like to think, particularly when it comes to when it concerning black women. And inexcusable how black women act, right? And if Nefikar is to be believed, a whole lot of black men agree with that. They think you can offer your way into black women actually respecting black men. They truly do not consider that the reason why black women and other women of color act and speak and move the way they do is because they internalized the racial hierarchy, right? They refuse to accept that. They don't even want to consider it, right? So the way Dr. Umar Johnson was speaking to Ish, it's very interesting. We already know how Dr. Umar Johnson thinks and feels about interracial relationships. Nefikar is 100% right in that, yeah, but you don't have that same smoke for black women, and no one does. That was what I was saying to FD Signifier. Dear FD, do you get it now with the Simone Biles situation? I promise you, you still are going to act like you don't get it. Right? Do you get it now? Right? If men aren't saying anything to the women because of their behavior, and women aren't saying anything to women, what do we think is going to? So, in other words, we are going to keep on criticizing our men under the guise of quote unquote constructive criticism. We're going to keep on insulting them, belittling them, telling them, why are you dating out? If you're a successful black man, why couldn't you just find you a successful black woman? So we're going to ignore the bad behavior. We're going to ignore the attitude. We're going to ignore the overweight. We're going to ignore the snarkiness. We're going to ignore the jealousy of white women. We're just going to ignore that. Why couldn't you just find you a black woman? We're going to say that to Ish. But all you had for Ebony K. Williams was an eyebrow raise. Huh? Ain't nobody saying nothing about Eve. No one's saying anything about Serena Williams except when Kim Foster and Chrissy throw Alexis Ohanian in our face. Huh? Because once again, it is understandable, right? It's understandable that black women date out because once again, black men are defective white men and defective black women simultaneously. It's understandable why black women date out. It's understandable why black women marry out. And then you got to remember, they're going to throw in your face, oh, yeah, look at our divorce rate with white men. It's so low. We got the lowest divorce rate when we were white men. Once again, women file for divorce. Women are the ones that file for divorce at like 80%. So is that about his behavior or is that about yours? Oops. Huh? So once again, I agree with Dr. Umar. I'm not into white women, right? Black women are my preference of varying shades. But when we continue to speak to, criticize, insult, belittle, quote unquote discipline, yawn, black men in a vacuum, well, we get to where we are now. Where black women show their ass when Mr. Jonathan Owens calls himself a prize, right? When Mr. Jonathan Owens calls himself a prize and his wife, Miss Simone Biles Owens, says nothing to it, and black women throw a goddamn temper tantrum and fit, that's how you get that. You get that because no one is saying anything to the ladies. What is the difference between progressive and traditional if both of y'all are like, I'm got shit to say to the women? Nope, nothing to see here. What's the difference? What, the family model? What's the difference? What is the difference between traditionalists and progressives and traditionalists when both of you are like, women, what you talking about? What, the women are misbehaving? What you talking about? I don't got nothing to say. Right? What's the difference? Is Dr. Umar Johnson going to say anything about how the women were acting over the Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles Owens situation? Absolutely not. Right? Is FD going to say anything? We'll see. Even though them women was in his, they was getting at him in his own Twitter thread or Twitter X or whatever it is called now. Shout out to the Afrikaner Elon Musk. Right? Huh. So, as I said, the internet will expose us all. We're in the era of exposure. Let them talk. And what you're seeing, and this is the beauty of it, both Dr. Umar Johnson who may not be 10 toes down conservative, but more of a traditionalist, and FD Signifier as a progressive are both telling y'all, I don't really got nothing to say to the ladies. Yeah, they could talk crazy. They could pass laws against black men. They could benign neglect black men. They could benign neglect black boys. Um, right? They could talk crazy about black men and black boys. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about their interracial marriage. I don't have anything. Hey, black men, if you would step it up, then maybe they wouldn't be married outside of the race. They marry outside the race, and I love to say this: black men marry outside of the race because black men ain't ish. Black women marry outside of the race because black men ain't ish. Right? Black men marry outside the race because they don't value black women, right? Because they hate what they see in the mirror, because they have preferences for non-black women, right? Because they're colorists and texturists and featurists. So that's what makes them not ish, right? Black women marry outside the race, once again, because black men with some money, or just black men in general, if they get an opportunity, will marry outside the race because black men hate what they see in the mirror. They're colorists, texturists, featurists, right? They want the white man's prize, right? They don't value a strong black woman, etc., etc. And so either way, we still end up with black men ain't ish. So once again, black men date out and marry out because black men ain't ish. Black women date out and marry out because black men ain't ish. I get it, right? So, you know, there is no real difference between progressives and traditionalists when it comes to black men and black women relationships. The end results on the other side, that equal side, will always be black men ain't ish. You could add 1 plus 1, you could add, right, or you can minus two minus one, or however you want it, however you get to the equation, but the equation equals black men ain't ish, right? So if black men ain't ish is 10, you could add 5 plus 5, you could times 5 times 2, right? You could add 1 10 times, you could minus 1 from 11, you could divide 100 by 10. Either way, you still end up at 10, which is black men ain't ish. And so that's why I put the clips. Hopefully, y'all checked it out of Nefikar speaking, and BGS speaking. And I really want Neferkar to really consider it's not fear of white men. I don't think black men fear white men. I think they understand the institutions. I think they understand white men's, political and social power. Definitely, obviously, the economic power, but the political and social power. I don't think it's fear of white men. I don't think black men fear white men. I think black men have been socialized to be ashamed of the fact that this is where they are historically. I think black men are socialized to perpetually feel shame about where black women find themselves right now. And I think that is why black men tend to not say anything about and to black women who interracially date and marry, especially the ones that brag about it. Right? Because it's a tacit understanding of like, you right, yeah, he is better than me. Yeah, you right, yeah, you are with the colonizer. I get it. I get it, right? And so I definitely understand where you're coming from, Nefikar, but I just think there's some things that you did consider, which is it's not about fear of white men. Black men don't fear white men, especially on an individual basis. If you walking down a alley and he's walking down the alley, y'all about the same size for the most part. Yeah, it's not really fear. It's shame. It's shame. It's what can we tell a black woman who's married to a white man? The assumption is he's richer than you. He has more social connections than you. He's probably more politically connected than you. The assumption, I'm saying, the assumption, right? So it's not fear of black women, it's shame. And what you see going on with Dr. Umar Johnson is a little bit different because a lot of his funding is coming from black women. His biggest supporters in many ways are black women, right? Especially when he gets into the talk about interracial relationships, right? So yeah, it's not fear of white men, right? And Jake, I understand the census data from the 60s and the interracial marriage rate, but that's not something that the black community does not want to have a conversation, and it's very clear. That's what you're seeing more and more. And what's beautiful about swirlers and divestors and just normal black girls and women on social media is they're going to force the conversation. Don't worry about it. We're not going to have to be the ones to force it. It's going to be forced by the loud ass women on social media. But yeah, the black community doesn't actually want to have a conversation about black women and their envy of white women's social and political power, and then what that means for black women in intimate relationship with white men, right? So nobody, they don't want to have that conversation, and it's very clear. It's very clear, right? And I know I might be Borging a little bit. My apologies. I'll get back to it in a minute. If I'm Borging, my apologies. Um, but yeah, so yeah, and then and on that we're not gonna belabor this too long. Shout out to BGS. Cornbread Tube is just here to, especially when they interact with, right? We're just gonna here to regulate the niggers, right? The black straight men are here to wave their fingers, and essentially um, be paid by the dollar, right? Okay, without opinion, without your final word, right? Different tradition, different relationship models. You pay, but she say, oh, "Look, Mrs. Z, you run again," right? Like I said, women, she say. If anybody say that, and Jake, right? Love it versus Virginia. We know, they know. Morgan, give me a second, because give me a second. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think I'm working. Okay. Anyway, let me see something. Yeah, it's not. Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. I like there. All right, there we go. All right, all right. Yeah, Loving versus Virginia. Yeah. Oh boy, and now it's lagging. Now it's lagging. Okay. On that note, that's my sign anyway. That's my sign. This is gonna be a short stream. This is a super short stream. Y'all not even used to Z doing a stream under 30 minutes. I know that's crazy talk. Crazy talk. But let me go inside and spend time with the missus. Um, yeah, and y'all pray for this damn flu that I got. But I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents in with this topic. Um, I see where BGS is coming from. There's no there for Black Bread Tube. And FD speaks to that a little bit. He's mentioned this. I did read Black Uru's comment about how, like, essentially, and if I'm reading it wrong, Black Uru will correct me, but FD's kind of using conversations with me to kind of make forays into the Black manosphere, and I see that. I can definitely understand where Black Uru is coming from. Um, when I engage with him, and I think I've gotten better from the first conversation to the second. I'm not sure. That's up to y'all to decide. But my goal is for him to speak and for him to essentially tell y'all what he said, where he pretty much said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna say nothing to the women. I'm not here to say anything to or about them." And when he said that, I mean, what else is there to say? Because we know Kim Foster's not, and we know T Noir is not. Juicy every once in a blue moon. T Noir, kind of, sort of. Khadijah does the both of you thing if she ever says anything, right? And literally coming out her mouth saying y'all need to queer your relationships. Oh boy, the issue, well, at least for black relationships, it really is. A lot of it is the money, but this queer your relationships thing. All right, the second you send her to put the garbage out, let me know how that works, right? When y'all say queer your relationships, what you're really meaning is softer men, men that wash dishes, not women that put the garbage out. Men that sweep and mop, not women that mow the lawn. That's what y'all mean by queer your relationships, right? So on that note, everyone, um, yeah, I definitely see where BGS is coming from. Black bread, cornbread tube. It's really, when it comes to conversation, they don't want to have an honest conversation about black man, black women relationships, and then all the fallout from that. What that means politically for the black community, socially, economically. They don't want to have a conversation about where black women, particularly educated black women, find themselves, what they're aspiring to. FDs, like, they're barely acknowledging boss girl feminism and what that did to black women, right? Radical feminism and what that means for black women and their relationships or lack thereof to black men. Same-sex loving relationships used as a political bludgeon, right? Intersectionality, like FD just, like, he pretty much admitted it. He ain't really rocking with the intersectional, even though he still sees through those lenses, through that lens. There we go. Even though he still sees through that lens, he's not particularly in that same space anymore. And he had to pretty much be honest with me when I said it. Yeah, because you realize that Kimberly Crenshaw used that to take everything off the table that would have gone to black boys and men. Once you do, I'm black, plus I'm woman, then maybe I'm LGBTQ. And what you're doing is saying that gives you, this is where standpoint theory comes from, that gives you a particular type of oppression that straight black men just don't have to deal with because they're straight and they're men. So you kind of sort of saying they somewhat kind of sort of white men. Let's be honest. Then you can say, well, if we're doing for the least of us, then black women are the least of us in a vacuum. And when you do for black women, you automatically, and this, they actually do say this, when you do for black women, you do for everyone else who's further up on the ladder. And so cornbread tube, what it seems like for real, is that they don't want us to upset that idea that black women have used intersectionality to benign neglect black boys and black men, and used it to pretty much say, but black man. And I said it to FD, y'all really want power. We want justice. And FD couldn't say nothing to that. But see, FD's been in those rooms, man. If he's a master's degree brother, he was going to school, he was working on his PhD. FD's been in those rooms, and he know that's the aura that black women carry, especially professional black women. Black men want power, and when they say power, they're not talking about like this benign power where you're not really going to abuse, but you are definitely going to use it to defend you and your family. No, when they say power, they mean black men want the same abusive, colonizing power that white men have, or at least had. And black women want justice. Black women want freedom and justice for all, right? We want people to just live and let live. You black men want to oppress others. You want to oppress the kids. You want to oppress the LGBTQ. You want to oppress the women, right? And Black Bread Tube is here to pretty much tell black men to simmer down and go back in your corners. And we'll address whatever concerns you have if and when we feel like it. And when we do, we are going to sanitize the entire hell out of it. We are going to make it insanely palatable to black women in what the hell they talking about. That, and it's not just, now that is not just a black man thing, the black men on the left. You see that even with Richard Reeves, right? The way he's framing it is, women, this is gonna help you, right? If you want your daughter to be married to a man, if you um have sons, this will help you. We got to do for the boys and the men. We can't just let them languish outside. That's how Richard Reeves is framing it, right? Not so much Scott Galloway. He's coming up straight through the middle, kind of a little bit more. And forget that Christine Embo straight up said, like, because I'm black and a woman and the child of immigrants, I'm just able to occupy this lane in a way and be heard in a way other people won't be. She straight up said it, right? But Dr. Umar Johnson is over here worried about black men in a vacuum marrying out because of the resources. He don't got nothing to say about the women's attitude, but oh, I forgot, the women have an attitude because black men ain't ish. And if black men would just make more and, kiss her ass, shout out to Simone Biles shout out to Simone Biles Owens and Jonathan Owens. If you would just kiss her ass, then hey, and laud her and big her up everywhere you go, then right. And so that's that. I told y'all I was gonna do less than 30 minutes. Look, we have 31 minutes. Um, so on that note, so that's the progressive issue. The traditionalist issue is, once again, just like Nefikar was saying, you have a whole bunch of men saying, "Oh, yeah, it's not our job to address the women. That's the women's job." Where are the women addressing the women? I'll wait. Where are the women addressing the women? Huh? Even Iyanla said, "Yeah, I can't do this with the women anymore." Rebecca Lynn Pope, April Mason, all the black women that deal with black women, from matchmaking to therapy to whatever, say, "Yeah, oh, can't do it." They tell you women are so quick to change the therapist if they don't get along with the therapist. Translation: once the therapist tell them some goddamn truth, oh, I don't like him. I don't like her. She takes your side too much. I don't. Right. So FD's not saying nothing to the women coming from the more progressive left, and Dr. Umar's not gonna really say nothing to the women coming from the more traditional, kind of conservative, not so much, but kind of. And the ladies ain't saying nothing to the ladies either. So whether they be left leaning or, perfect example, Chrissy is more right leaning, Kim Foster is more left leaning. What's the difference? When it comes to black men, what's the difference? Huh? Exactly. Not a goddamn thing. Right? So on that note, everyone, look, about to be 35 minutes. Look, um, y'all like, share, subscribe. Thank you, button, for the replay squad. I had to cover this because I don't really see a difference. Yeah, maybe somebody in the comments tell me y'all see a difference between the traditionalists and the progressives and the traditionalists. Is Mr. Z missing something? Right? I don't see a difference. Do y'all? When it comes to black man, black women relations, whether they're progressive men, excuse me, progressive black men, traditionalist black men, progressive black women, traditionalist black women. When it comes to speaking about black men, black women relations, y'all see a difference? Or does it always come back down to, but black men, it's kind of your fault. Whatever the issue is, it's kind of your fault. She's only acting like that because of you. Are y'all gonna ever say anything to her? No, 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 no. We're no. We're just gonna we're just going to speak to you and criticize you and your behaviors, and we have nothing to say about her and her behaviors. As a matter of fact, if you act right, then maybe she'll act right. Right? So on that note, everyone, we'll pause right here. Truly, love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all have a great, great, great rest of y'all night. I don't know if anyone's streaming. I'm probably sure somebody's streaming right now. But yeah, y'all have a BGS, duh. That's why I'm like, what? My count is low tonight. No, because BGS is streaming. Who streams when BGS is streaming? That's not smart. Um, oh, is he? Oh, so Mr. Shook to you said BGS is sending everyone over here. Oh, but yeah, you're right. You said that, and I saw my viewership jump. Oh boy, so in other words, BGS sent people right when I said it. I clicked over. I was like, "Who's streaming? Somebody's probably streaming." I'm thinking it's Ed. It's BGS. Who streams when BGS is streaming? That wasn't smart, right? But I definitely wanted to come to y'all with this because I definitely think that's something that we have to consider. That is why there's a Black Manosphere. That is why and shout out to Big Kev when he said like it's a wide cross section of left to right, mainly centrist left to right, black men, right? He was 100% right about that, and that's why I asked him to repeat it, and that's why I asked Compassionate to clip it out. He's 100% right about that. The Black Manosphere exists because we couldn't expect FD to ever really speak to our concerns. And yes, obviously we existed before there was an FD signifier, but still, and we couldn't expect Dr. Umar Johnson to speak to our concerns. They're not, and they won't, right? Thank you, Amwoof. And Amwoof says Yvette Carnell is about to stream about Umar tonight. I'll be over there. You should check it out. I definitely will. I definitely will. Right. And that's all it is. They're not, bro. They're not. And that's why there's a Black Manosphere. And that's why I said that to FD when he spoke about BGS. The reason why there's a BGS is because nigga, we knew you was never gonna say nothing. And thank you for confirming it. That's how you get women throwing a goddamn bro. I gotta bring it up again. I'm sorry we beating this to dead. Well, it's already dead. We're being a dead corpse. That is why you have women throwing a goddamn temper tantrum over Simone Biles Owens and Jonathan Owens. Y'all heard women sounding like this. FD, I don't believe you, bro. I don't believe you when you said, "Oh well, I'm." So let me get this right. Lil Bill said he heard women talking like this. I said I heard women talking like this, and not even my own mother. But you were in Chicago, you were in that Cook County area, and you ain't hear black women sounding like this. I'm sorry, bro. FD, you know I ain't the one to call somebody a liar, bro. I don't believe it, bro. I don't believe it, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And you're in Atlanta now, and you trying to tell me you get, bro? I'm not even gonna lie to you. I don't believe it. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I don't believe it. Right? And you're older than me. You're 41, and you never heard black women sounding like how me and Lil Bill. I don't live by Lil Bill, right? And because women weren't saying anything to the women, fine, FD. You don't think it's your place as a man. Cool. You don't think it's your place as a black man. All right, cool. Because women weren't saying nothing to the women and men weren't saying nothing to the women. You have women wishing death on Jamie Foxx. You have women dancing on Kobe Bryant's grave because he wasn't married to, and doing it publicly, dancing on Kobe Bryant's grave because he wasn't married to a black woman, dancing on Kevin Samuel's grave, throwing a goddamn fit belittling Simone Biles Owens' husband, and you want to talk about black men in the Black Manosphere need to touch grass? Okay, yeah, that's it. Right? These women for a good 3-4 days were throwing a goddamn fit all over the internet because a black man had the unmitigated gall to call himself a prize. And to say he didn't know who his wife was before she messaged him. And now they're telling, bro, you know what's so egregious about what they're doing? They're literally telling her she need to divorce him. I'm reading the comments saying she better have her divorce lawyers ready. She need to leave him. They're literally, and I love it, they're literally saying she should have been with Zac Efron. Black men need to take example from Alexis Ohanian. Let me say this one more again. I told you. FD, I told you. I told you. Right? I told 3 weeks later, I told you. It wasn't even a month later. It wasn't. You want to tell me all those women that saying that are swirler and divestors? Huh? All the black women throwing a goddamn fit on the internet, a bunch of swirlers and divestors? Huh? Just saying. But we get that for, and like once again, Nefakar, it's not fear of white men. It's shame. It's brothers feeling shame about their position, black women's position, and feeling like they lost some goddamn race war to white men. Right? And I'm Wolf says, how that dude gonna tone police grown ass men in this space, but he ain't got the nuts to talk to the women. Well, he did say he did a little back and forth with Kim Foster, through whatever way they communicate. But okay, cool, whatever. Yeah, exactly. AB said some of them are married. This is insane. This is insane. So, like if no one's gonna say anything, like I said, I don't really see a difference between the progressive and the traditionalist. If anyone can tell me what's the difference when it comes to relationships between black men and black women, if you listen to Dr. Umar Johnson and if you listen to FD Signifier, y'all tell me what will be the difference. What will be the difference if you listen to foreign land? If you listen to Conscious Lee, what would be the difference when it comes to relationship between? They might disagree on certain things politically, maybe socially where black people should go, but when it comes to relationships between black men and black women, what's the difference between FD Signifier and Dr. Umar Johnson? Outside of Dr. Umar Johnson kind of looking a little bit sideways. He might look a little bit sideways at black women dating white men. He might look a little bit sideways, but of course, once again, he understands because black men are defective, right? So there's that. And that is my point. That excuse me. That is why there is a black manosphere. Because whether you are a traditionalist slash conservative, whether you are progressive, a liberal, somewhere on the left of the political spectrum, doesn't matter because when we start talking about black men, black women relationships, everybody look at black men like, you're really the problem. You know that, right? Good point, I'm Wolf. Good point. And I'm Wolf says FD is actually married. I'll give him that. Can't say the same for Umar. Good point. Good point. Good point. Right. You're correct. So on that note, everyone, I am truly gonna end right here. Let me go chill with the lady for a little bit. So we will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. Like I said to Nefakar, I don't think it's fear of white men. I don't think black men fear white men. Um, I think black men outside of the Black Manosphere have a certain level of shame that they did not make black women upper middle class and rich white women. Not just singularity, right? It's not just the one individual black woman, it's black women, right? So that's something to consider. Um, and yeah, but there's no real difference between the traditionalists and the traditionalists and the progressive black men when it comes to relationship between black men and black women. Y'all both are telling Negroes they ain't ish and they're the defective ones, and you're both of y'all are trying to penis police, and yeah. particularly the traditionalists on that one. That one, I will say, the progressives might be a little bit better, but the traditionalists are definitely trying to penis police black men. But nobody got nothing to say to the sisters who are like throwing temper tantrums all through the interwebs. White white peen worshiping all through the interwebs. Hey, FD, you want to call it just swirler and divestors now? You want to call it just a small fringe? Huh? Huh? Can't say that since the Simone Biles Owens thing now, can you? It's gonna be interesting to see you try to reframe this if you can. I don't even think you're gonna cover the subject. It was too blatant, honestly. But let's see. I'm gonna give it a few more days. I said it Friday, next week Friday. But if he was gonna cover it, he probably would have covered it already. But let's see. Anyway, on that note, everyone, y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. For the love of God, FD over here telling us to touch grass. Mr. Z literally is gonna go inside and watch something about war or something, whatever the hell. I just had to explain the 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 whole that a super short digest version of Palestine Israel history to one of my friends. And I wouldn't be able to do that, FD, if Mr. Z didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and I didn't go outside and touch grass, and I didn't watch other things and read up on other things. But let FD tell it. It's because we don't go outside and touch grass. That's why we are obsessed with, I don't know, black women talking crap about us. Anyway, on that note, y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Mr. Z out.